See, what's really funny is most of the times you don't get to hear our conversations before we go live. And most of our conversations are about BSing something in the world of sports. How the college football playoff is supposedly rigged because of I have a bunch of SEC teams winning my playoff projections. But you know what is rigged is the NBA freaking lottery. BS, spare me that they did not just trade
that was a fair and square
Los
draw,
Angeles
baby.
to go ahead and not get Cooper Flag. It is the biggest BS I've ever heard that the NBA is not rigged. And that is how
he should be heading to the Rocket City.
That's how we begin the overtime drive right here on SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson. We have a jam-packed show, and you'll only hear me complain once or twice about the NBA lottery for the rest of the evening. But we will be talking about college football playoff selections. How many teams can actually make the college football playoff? What do you have to do to guarantee your spot in the dozen days for 2025? And we're also going to be breaking down Georgia's schedule. So if you haven't already, like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel. That way we can talk about college football every single day. And let us know what you want to hear in the comment section down below. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the social channels, link in the description, or at Mr. Cole Thompson, Dave Shumate SEC. And check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, we are proudly fueled by FANDUEL. Go visit FANDUEL.com/SECU and join today with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. The tournament in Hoover is underway later this week. We got regionals coming up, super regionals coming up. The NHL postseason, the NBA postseason is underway. And of course, we got the regular MLB at your disposal. So whatever you want to bet on, go visit FANDUEL.com/SECU. Join in the mix today. Schusters, how the hell are you? Besides the fact that I have to live in a world where the Dallas Mavericks actually get Cooper Flag.
Bear, what do you think, man? The NBA is going to have a hard time living down the.
It's a joke.
Rigged.
Okay. So it's not even that it's the NBA's fault. It's the Lakers. Like I'm not even really that mad at the Mavericks. Now I grew up in Houston. I hate the Mavericks. I cannot stomach the Mavs because of what they were able to win with Dirk, what they were able to win with Jason Terry when they had Jason Kidd there. Like it's a whole different thing. And then Houston, Dallas loyalties. There's always going to be that kind of spectrum. So I won't get into details with that. But the Lakers is the main culprit here. Because think about this for a second. In 2019, there was rumors that LeBron wanted to go pair up with AD. And what happened right before the Lakers landed Anthony Davis? Oh, they landed Zion Williamson in the draft. So they got the #1 overall pick to give LeBron out in Los Angeles a key factor that was going to help his team win a Mickey Mouse title. Now, LeBron is on his way out. You can't trust Anthony Davis to save his freaking life because of the injuries. You need to get a budding superstar that is going to be locked in for the long haul out in Los Angeles because it is the most profitable organization. And what's the reward? Well, nobody thought that Luka would be available. But then when you throw in the fact that, oh, we're going to give you Anthony Davis, we're going to give you a future first-round pick, and we will guarantee you the #1 overall pick, and it's Cooper Flag, you can hit the reset market for the actual asking price to go add in some free agents in the offseason. Spare me that the NBA lottery is not rigged. This is not Houston picking ninth, anything like that. This has everything to do with the fact that you can't convince me that you trade away a player that nobody thought was touchable because of what that organization meant to him. He just bought a house out there. He just signed a brand new deal. All these things added up. It made no sense unless you were guaranteeing you get the #1 pick. And lo and behold, who's picking #1 and who's getting the kid from Duke, who may end up being one of the best players in the NBA 5 years from now.
Yeah, Cooper. Yeah, shoot, the kid's grown a ton just in the last year and put on 12 pounds. You know, you're right. I mean, that's about as fishy as it gets from a standpoint. It's hard to live down that narrative that people are skeptical of the NBA from a United States generalization standpoint. Not everybody, but I think people are a little skeptical of the league sometimes and what they do. To your point, though, this fits the narrative perfect. You're in another big market where it's almost like, oh yeah, you get rid of him, you get rid of Luka, yeah, we'll make sure you're guaranteed to get the first pick.
It's the only way it makes sense because again, this was a team that still made it to the play-in round. Like they didn't make the final 8, but they made it to the play-in round. They had a 1.8% shot of guaranteeing the #1 pick, and you have Utah.
The Rockets had, Bear.
The 3.6. Like it wasn't great. I wasn't sitting here saying like, okay, you go get him, then you can trade that pick to go get a Kevin Durant or a Devin Booker or use it in the Giannis deal, whatever it is. Like I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that a 1.8 shot, you make it to the play-in round. You still have Anthony Davis. You still have Klay Thompson. You still have Kyrie Irving. And then you throw in Cooper Flag, all because of you trade away your best asset. And the only way that I would actually believe that this is just coincidence is if in 2019, Zion Williamson, when he was coming out of Duke, and everyone praised him to be this generational talent, if he didn't land in New Orleans. But he lands in New Orleans, they ship AD off to LA, they win a title. The math just maps up perfectly to where I'm looking at every single conspiracy theory about the NBA, and it's like, yep, you did this on purpose. You guarantee that they were going to get Cooper Flag if they were willing to go
Seems
ahead.
Like everybody's pretty universal on it on social media. I mean, it is very, very fishy for sure.
It's like, I get if San Antonio somehow won it. It would be shocking because if we all didn't think that they were going to get the Victor Wembanyama pick, a lot of people were shocked when they got Victor Wembanyama. But it's just like, you can't say in one breath, hey, a team that ends up having the worst record in the NBA and needs a budding superstar to be the face of their foundation gets the 5th overall pick. They don't even get the top 4. Like, you go to commercial break and here's Utah sitting there like, hold up. What the fuck is going on?
Is the NBA the professional league you trust the least?
I trust the least with the NBA, 100%. I always have, and I always will. Because, again, it was clear. LeBron's in Cleveland. Miami is profitable. They were making sums of money. The revenue that you were getting out in South Beach compared to what you were getting in Cleveland. And also, the Rockets were about to land Chris Bosh before LeBron decided to go join forces with Dwayne Wade to create the super team down in South Beach. That became a thing. Like, I just don't buy into it. And it's frustrating because of I know that they're willingly doing it. They openly root for New York. They openly root for Golden State.
Market teams.
They openly root for these teams that are profitable because of,
Boston.
Again, it's all about revenue for them. And it's the same thing in every single professional sport. Patrick Mahomes is the most profitable player in the NFL. But I guarantee you would love nothing more than to trade him and trade his assets to the New York Giants. That way he was playing in a bigger market for an organization known for its budding history, so you can sell the shit out of that. It's the same thing in baseball. I love the fact that we got to see the Texas Rangers, even though I can't stand the Rangers, and the Arizona Diamondbacks represent the Fall Classic. I thought it was great, but they didn't care. It was the lowest watched World Series in the history of the last 20 years. Last season, the Dodgers and the Yankees go. It's the most watched World Series. The bigger the market, the more it's marketable. Yeah. So it's like Luke is a top 5 player in the NBA when he's fully healthy, at least offensively. Maybe if you want to go top 10, I would argue with that. That's fine. You know that LeBron is going to be on his way out. And the Lakers, which is the most profitable franchise in the sport, needs a budding superstar that can come in and win now, and people want to build around him. And Dallas, of all teams, is like, yeah, we're going to give you up for AD and insert player here. That's where I have an issue with it. And it's like, it just has driven me nuts all day that, like, this was the reality. And I called it back when they made this trade. I called it weeks ago. I said, I guarantee you the NBA is sitting here and saying, we need a superstar out in Los Angeles. Nico, you're going to get a lot of crap from the fans. You're going to get a lot of crap from a bunch of media people. You're going to get Cooper Flag as your reward.
You're going to get a young Cooper Flag.
Just play our game and be a good little boy, and then we'll give you Cooper Flag. That's what it felt like. Like, that's honestly what it felt like. And it's infuriating because of, again, you can build a franchise and turn the corner, but you don't want to send them to Salt Lake City. You don't want to send them to Charlotte. You don't even want to send them to Philadelphia for that matter. You're like, nah, you know what? Let's give San Antonio just a little bit of hope. Let's just give them a smidge of hope, and then we'll just send them to Dallas because at least Dallas is marketable. Because at least Dallas is a top 15 market in sports. So we'll
I mean, it totally makes sense.
All right, I'm done complaining. I've spent the last 9 minutes and 25 seconds bitching about a sport that has nothing to do with the SEC. And I'm talking about a player that's from the ACC. So that's like even worse. It's not even a dude in the SEC that I can turn this into a clip about. 3 teams tonight, why they can and can't make the college football playoff. We're going to go through all 16 teams, just like we're doing with the schedule. But we're starting off with Tennessee, LSU, South Carolina. Ways they can make the playoffs, ways that they can miss the playoffs. Let's start off with number 1, a team that was in the playoffs last year. Tennessee Volunteers went 10-2, had decent overall quarterback play, solid run game with Dylan Sampson, an elite defense. No more Dylan Sampson. No more Nico Iamaleava. Multiple defensive players are off to the NFL. Still a good nucleus, not an elite one anymore. So, Dave, in your opinion, when looking at this team and looking at their schedule, what is the way that Tennessee can make the college football playoff once more in 2025?
This is the thing me and you agree on, Bear. I mean, first thing that comes to mind, and again, I thought Tennessee was in that 8-4, 9-3, leaning 9-3 going to the season before Nico left.
Yeah.
They're now still kind of in that 8-4, 9-3, but to why they could make the playoffs, I just think it's a schedule. I mean, me and you, Greg, it's not a very difficult schedule, and it wasn't last year. And I think it was a big reason why, outside the defense and Dylan Sampson, as you mentioned on the run game, why they made the playoffs. I'm going to say a schedule is a big reason why I think. I mean, it's also year 5 for Josh Heupel, but I do think I am concerned about Tennessee. I will say that. I am concerned about them. The more you go on, the more you watch some more film of Joey Aguilar, I don't know if it's going to be the floor. Some may think I'm going to be a little bit higher on him than I initially was when he first came on. But the decision making could be there more so than it was with Nico. I don't know if it's even just him, man. There's so many question marks like me and you talked about on a lot of these shows, Bear, like that I think have to hit for Tennessee to get back to the playoffs. Someone step up at the receiver spot. We both like Mike Matthews, but I got to see it before I can believe it. I mean, you lost Cade Mays at the center spot. You lost a lot of other offensive linemen that are just gone. Like, you lost Dylan Sampson. Again, me and you both agree. I think it's going to be a little bit more by committee. Peyton Lewis, Deshaun Bishop, I think Star Thomas could definitely help out. Like, it could be more by committee. I don't think it's going to be Dylan Sampson. We know Tim Banks, Rodney Garner, and them lost a lot on that defense. I mean, Jamon McCoy's back, but there's a lot of holes to fill. I think this is a year Tennessee's going to be very fortunate to get a schedule or to get the schedule that they can. They lean a little bit more towards me how I thought Missouri was last year, Bear. I don't really think Missouri was really like a true 9-3 team. They were, but like I think they were a 9-3 team because of their schedule more so than that's what they actually were. And I get that same feel for Tennessee. But as you can probably tell, man, I'm not overly confident now in the Vols. I do think Nico is definitely a loss. But the schedule still, if I'm a Tennessee fan, very beneficial schedule. So that should give you something to be excited about.
I actually do still think that they can make the playoffs. Now, number one, it is the schedule. You look top to bottom, probably the Georgia game because of it's early in the season. You throw that into the conversation with a new quarterback that's being brought into Josh Heupel's system is probably chalked up as a loss. What if we are overhyping Alabama? Just a little bit. What if their offense isn't as advertised? Quarterback play is insufficient. You have, I think, a good enough defense still to march on into Bryant-Denny and make this a battle on the third Saturday in October. I know that you've had struggles playing against Florida in the swamp, but overall, roster-wise, I think that you're pretty even keel. If you have solid quarterback play, and if you have anybody step up at wide receiver, I think there's a lot to like about this being a matchup that probably Tennessee can at least be competitive in. And then every other game, in my opinion, is winnable. So you're talking about going 11-1, 10-2 at best in the SEC. That would mean that you're a guaranteed spot in the college football playoff because I don't see a scenario where a double-digit win team in the SEC, the most profitable conference, is being left out. So that's a factor. The other thing is that I was not high on the wide receivers last year for Tennessee, and I think I made that abundantly clear on multiple occasions. I was not high on Squirrel White. I was not high on Dante Thornton. I was not high that much on Chris Brazzell, but I thought Brazzell could have been the breakout star, and I wasn't high on Brew McCoy. Well, one is off to Tallahassee, one is off to the NFL, one's retired. So it's a brand new wide receiver room. And sometimes it may be unproven, but that to me also could mean it's a mold of clay. I can turn this into however I see fit for my personnel. I need somebody to do extremely well in the slot. Okay, I'm calling Braylon Staley. He's going to be a factor from day one. I need somebody to be that vertical threat. Okay, Mike Matthews, your time to step on up. I need somebody to be a third down target, a chain mover. Travis Smith, you impressed me throughout all of spring practice. Can you be that dude? I think you throw in decent tight end play with Miles Kitselman. I know he's coming off of the injury, but I still believe that he could be something. I also really do like what you have when it comes to Ethan Davis back for another year. So I like the personnel around Joey Aguilar. And then my third point is I think the defense is going to take a step back, but not by as much as some want to make it out to be. Like, I know that I am a lot more bullish on this secondary than probably most, but I also do think of the addition of Colton Hood, the kid that came on in from Colorado, is going to add at least solid depth, if not be a potential starter midway through the year, which could end up helping with the turnover rate, which could end up helping you win a couple of battles in the third and fourth quarter. So I like that when it comes to Tennessee. I just need you to be a consistent offense. I need you, if you are Joey Aguilar, fifth-year starter, whether that be at JUCO, whether that be at the Group of Five level, the newcomer, a Sun Belt Player of the Year at Appalachian State, just be a point guard. Don't throw the football into harm's way. Find your rapport with whichever receivers really stand on out and know when it's time for you to tuck and run or get it out of bounds to hit reset on the play, and that way you don't get a turnover. Those are the things that I look at and I say, if I can split the series between Florida and Alabama and I lose to Georgia and I win out the rest of the way and I don't fall short against a Mississippi State squad, or I don't fall short against a Kentucky squad, or I don't fall short against Syracuse in week 1, we're good enough to be 10-2. And if we're 10-2, we're in the college football playoff. If anything, this schedule and the fact that I think that you're bringing in new receivers and Chris Brazel's like your veteran, if anything, I think that that's kind of a blessing right now for Tennessee, because of you can lose Nico Iamaleava and still feel like there is a shot for us to go to the playoff.
Yeah, and I mean, why they won't, it's a lot of the stuff I already said. I'm not going to be very long-winded, people. I mean, I just think there's a lot of holes on this roster. I think about all of them are going to have to click for them to get back. I mean, it's tough to say about a lot of teams all year, but again, I know a lot of Tennessee fans are kind of moving the goalpost now, kind of glad Nico was going to leave, but I think there was room for growth in this next year for him. Hopefully. Again, I think overall he is kind of a slow processor, has a slow blinker. I think Joey Aguilar probably can diagnose stuff a little quicker. I think it's going to be a sliding scale of good and bad. Probably you're going to hit some more shot plays downfield because he won't be afraid to take them, but I also think that may come with some more turnovers. So I mean, it's gonna play itself out, but it just, even outside the quarterback spot, I just don't think they hit on a center replacement, on 2 to 3 guys stepping up at the wide receiver spot. I'm with you, Barry. The defense probably isn't going to be bad because I do trust Tim Banks and I love Rodney Garner. I think they've both done a phenomenal job building that front seven. But, I mean, outside of Arian Carter and Jamad McCoy,
I think Jackson Roy may have a decent year.
I like Joshua Josephs. We recruited him when I was in it, and I think I was expecting a little bit more of a bigger year from him last year, but I definitely think he's that edge guy that should step up in year 4 for Rodney Garner. This is usually when his vets step up. I'd expect a big year for him. I just think for them to go back now that Nico is officially gone, you have a quarterback who is not with you in the spring. It's just tough. So I think why they wouldn't make it speaks for themselves if you're being objective. A lot of holes, and like I said, the reason why they could. Still enough talent, year 5. Josh Heupel's done a really good job so far in Knoxville, and like me and Barry have agreed, talked on since the beginning of 2025. Tennessee schedule once again very beneficial in 25.
For me, do you remember when Peyton Thorne came into Auburn and a lot of people were skeptical about him automatically just winning the starting job outright based off of what quarterbacks you already had in the building? You talked to Hugh Freeze, and he said that offseason, one of the things that deteriorated us having immediate success with Peyton was he wasn't here for spring. So he didn't get those 15 practices to build a relationship with his wide receivers, learn the ins and outs of what we were running with Philip Montgomery's offense, what we wanted to do with the run game. There were all these little factors that eventually really hurt Auburn in the passing attack. And it doesn't help that you had an overrated quarterback, in my opinion, when it came to a kid coming in from Michigan State. That being said, those 15 practices, I think, do wonders for a quarterback just to get comfortable. And Joey Aguilar is not going to have those 15 practices. He's going to have a fall camp. He's going to be able to, once he gets on campus, call up Mike Matthews, call up Travis Smith, call up Braylon Staley, call up Ethan Davis, call up Miles Kitselman, say, hey, let's do film study throughout the summer. Let's make sure that we're throwing 3 times a week. Let's make sure that we're hanging out. We're building that relationship off the field. And I think that could do wonders when it comes to trust factor, but there's also what you see in practice is what you're going to be able to kind of build upon. And he's not going to have that time. And so the timing of this is it's really sour, because if I actually do think that, I agree with you. I think that Joey Aguilar is, in my opinion, from an IQ standpoint, more advanced than what Nico is right now. He's got multiple years of starting experience underneath his belt. I think his decision-making may be better. I think also that the turnover rate may be up, but so will the touchdown rate. I think that he'll be able to throw more touchdowns because he's more of that gunslinger mentality. And I think that fits for what Josh Heupel's offense wants. But I think the big selling point will be those 15 spring practices just to build a foundation with the offense, just to feel comfortable running the system. That may make or break 2 or 3 games. That may eventually lead to a 9-3 season or an 8-4 season on what could have been a 10-2 season. It sounds really stupid, but I don't think enough people pay attention to what those 15 allotted practices do for a player's confidence and an understanding and a dialect of knowing what a personnel wants. And he doesn't have that. And so that is my fear, is that for Tennessee, they're going to have a lot of pieces there. They're going to be really good in the run game. They're going to feel better about the wide receiver room, but Joey's still playing catch up, and now we're going into the third quarter down by 10 against Georgia, and we just got to chalk this one up as an L and hopefully expect the best when we play Alabama, expect the best when we play Florida, when we play Kentucky, when we play Mississippi State, when we play all these other teams, and we don't slip and fall on our end of the bargain. Like, that's how I feel right now when it comes to the Joey Aguilar not being there for the spring.
Yeah, I mean, again, is what it is. I just think that's going to inevitably push it. And it's why the over-under win total in Vegas dropped and stayed there.
It had to. It had to drop because of the experience of having a quarterback in the system for multiple years automatically outweighs, I think, any player who may have more potential or more immediate upside simply because of they know what a coach is looking for. And Joey doesn't know that just yet. And that's the difference right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, 8.5 is a good over-under number for them.
South Carolina is another really interesting team because offensively, they may end up being one of the more explosive units in the SEC this year. They have an opportunity, especially because of what they have a quarterback in Lenore Sellers. We're still Faison. We got to figure out what's going on with the NCAA eligibility with him. But Michael Smith, the tight end, I think is going to take another step forward. Everyone that I've spoken to out in Columbia really likes Jordan Dingle, the transfer from Kentucky. They like the offensive line. Boaz Stanley is going to be a player that they really think could just be an integral part of what is their interior offensive line. The wide receiver room, they didn't go out anybody in the portal, but they also like where they are at wide receiver. Do we like where they are? That's a question for another day. But they are going to have to be, I think, more offensively dependent. So, Dave, when you look at the Gamecocks coming off of a 9-4 finish, top 15 ranking, for a lot of people, an actual threat to be a dark horse to win the SEC, and certainly a threat to be this year's Tennessee, that fourth team that sneaks its way on in. Where are you and what needs to happen for South Carolina to make the college football playoff?
I mean, again, I think they're going to have some injury luck on the offensive line, just like a lot of teams. That's rare. And again, we talk about it all the time. Depth's not very good across the board, especially at that position for all teams in college football. I would say that somebody stepping up at the wide receiver spot. I mean, I'm kind of looking at you, Nick Harbor. I mean, I like Mazio Bennett, but I don't think Mazio Bennett's a number. If he's a wide, I mean, I guess technically he could be someone's wide receiver one, but if he is your one, I don't think that's a sign of good things to come from an explosive standpoint. Again, it's nothing on him. I think his role's a 2 or 3. You feel pretty good about yourself then. Now, I think defensively they're going to drop off some, just depending with Clayton White and how much they drop off. Me and you were both high on Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy. I think he could help them up front after losing some of those interior guys like TJ Sanders earlier. And then I think you see Shane Beamer talk about it in the offseason. They lost a lot of their leadership last year. Again, he talked about I wasn't high on South Carolina going into the year last year. Was low in the quarterback spot. Obviously, Lenore Sellers was a lot better than I was expecting him to be. He mentioned a lot of people were saying their leadership is what they had last year and what he liked about that. And again, unless you're internally in that program, you wouldn't know that. And you could tell he kind of felt maybe it was the opposite this year. Like, we got the quarterback, so that's why we're being projected high by a lot of people. But he's like, not saying we don't have leadership, but that is a question mark going into the season that I felt really comfortable about with the guys like Nick and Manwari last year and stuff like that. And then also, bear my final one, I think, what do they do in the red zone, man, with Mike Shula? They lost Rocket Sanders. And I know it's a bowl game. Feels like everybody's kind of putting a lot of stock in that bowl game because both South Carolina and Illinois are in everybody's preseason top 15. But they struggled in the red zone. What were they, 1 for 4? I think in red zone attempts in that bowl game, and he didn't play in that game. So that's a little bit of a concern for me because he was up to his 2022 self then. But no, there's a lot of reasons why that I don't think they would, but you can make a lot of different cases for sure. But Bear, why do you think they won't make the playoffs?
If they are going to make it, a wide receiver one steps up. Let's just start there. It doesn't matter if it's Nick Harbor or it's Mazio Bennett. It could end up being a freshman. I mean, honestly, it could end up being Jaylen Brown. It could be Devontae Miles. I mean, my bad, not Jaylen Brown. My apologies. Donovan Murph. That was it. It could be Jaden Sellers. Could be Brian Rowe. Could be Lex Cyrus. Could be Malik Clark. They brought in 5 guys in this last recruiting class. Maybe one of them ends up having just such a good rapport out in fall camp. And here we are going into week 4, and now he has 25 catches for 295 yards, and 16's like, zero's open. All right, Lex Cyrus, go catch it for 6. It could be that. It may end up being Nick Harbor. Harbor spent the entire spring not working out in track and field. He said, I'm going to be a football player. So he's already built that relationship with Sellers during the regular season, done it when it comes to the offseason workouts. Could be Mazeo Bennett. I was a lot higher on Mazeo Bennett than I think most people last year. I thought there were certain times where, yeah, you wanted Nick Harbor to be that X factor player, but the dude that was going to get you more consistency and move the chains was Mazeo. Like, that's how I felt about this team. So it doesn't matter which player ends up being that guy. But Lenora Sellers has to feel confident that there is going to be a weapon open 95% of the time to where I can tuck and go. Boom. There we are. First down, move the chains. Let's hit reset. That's number 1. Number 2 is that a lot of these new defensive players, they don't act new. So the thing is that, yes, South Carolina went into the transfer portal. We already mentioned Gabriel Brown-Lindy. That's a guy that I think that we're both high on because of the relationship and the style of defense that he plays. They also brought in Justin Okoronkwo from Alabama. They brought in Sean Murphy from Florida State. They brought in Demon Clowney. But they also have DQ Smith, Judge Collier, Jalen Kilgore, Peyton Williams, David Boosie, Jerome Williams, Nick Barrett, Monkel Godwin, and a couple of others that have been with Clayton White. So if you're talking about leadership, it just feels like an internal promotion. We're not going into free agency or the transfer portal to get better with these players. They're just going to serve with us as rotational options and solid contributors, but we're taking that leadership factor that we felt last year, and it's advancing to the next stage with the crap that we already have. They've been inside the building. They've been here through the workouts. They've been here through the dark times. They've been here through the blowout losses. They were here during the 5 a.m. Wake-up calls. They were here through the film study. They're acting like they're the leaders, and they already understand what Clayton White is looking for, and so they don't miss a beat. That's number 2. And number 3, do you have a run game? Because of whether or not you like it, the style of offense that Mike Shula is going to call is going to have to address the run. And I like Rasul Faison. And I think Rasul Faison, fully healthy, can be one of the better running backs in the SEC. Luttery did it at Utah State last year, 6.6 yards on the ground. And I do think that he has a little bit more of that oomph. Like, he is not a guy that's going to go down quietly. He is going to force his way for that extra yard. And that may end up keeping a drive alive. But if the eligibility waiver doesn't work, how do you feel about Oscar Attaway? How do you feel about Jawan Howell? How do you feel about Jaquan Holman? How do you feel about your overall
running back 1, Oscar Attaway?
How do you feel about that situation? Because one of the things that really benefited for Lenore Sellers last year was having a Rocket Sanders. And it's not even just, the rushing ability. Like the LSU game we can talk about all the time, both of them decided to go off and have multiple explosive runs. But how about just the Missouri game? Little shovel pass. 15 yards down the field, you're in the end zone. Time is about to expire. You don't win that game without having a trusted running back in the backfield because of how many times did you trust that Rocket Sanders was going to be your guy. So if you can have a run game, you can have a number 1 wide receiver, and that overall defensive mentality translates with players who were role players last year, and they end up being day 1 starters or significant contributors. South Carolina will have the schedule that will back them up and say, we went 10-2. We are in our spot in the college football playoff. Alabama, Oklahoma, you got to play LSU on the road. You get to go play against Ole Miss. I mean, Virginia Tech, even depending on what they do in the ACC, may end up being bountiful. There's a reason to say, yes, South Carolina, if all things go according to plan, can get to that double-digit marker.
Yeah, no. I mean, if all things hit and those things hit, similar to Tennessee, but they have the quarterback there.
What's the reason they won't make the playoff?
Reason why I already gave you mine. My why they wouldn't. I gave you mine. You asked me that on the front end why they wouldn't. My why they would.
Well,
I mean,
okay, well, why would?
Important position in all sports. You got the quarterback spot. If he can take that next step and play within the pocket at times. Again, we talked about Mazeo Bennett. I think a lot of Mazeo Bennett's catches can be attributed to Lenore Sellers escaping the pocket and him getting hit wide open for some improvisation plays. So, again, I think Lenore Sellers would be obviously the biggest reason why. Again, I think the schedule, to your point, anybody goes 10-2 in the SEC, I think you're getting in. But I'm not going to make any more than what it is. I think you got one of the top quarterbacks in the league. I think he has a chance to go take that next step. Mike Shula is a good quarterback developer. Is he a good play caller? It's to be determined. But I grew up around, not in Tuscaloosa, but going to a lot of Alabama games growing up as a kid with my family. And he was the head coach there for people who don't know, 03 to 06. Not always a great play caller, but John Parker Wilson's best year as a quarterback was under Mike Shula. And he played 2 years for Nick Saban after that. So let that for be what it is. It's going to come for the Lord North Sellers is the reason why I think they make the college football playoff, because I think it's the most important position in all sports.
I mean, naturally, that would be the right answer. But for me, the reason they wouldn't make the college football playoff, they just lost too much. I mean, especially defensively. Yes, you will have Dylan Stewart back. And yes, you will have Jalen Kilgore back. And I'm going to be real, Dave. I think both of them are probably top 5 at their position, one in the nickel and one at defensive end. They're just so well adapted, and they fit what Clayton White wants. But it's the undertone names that we're talking about that aren't brought up enough, like a Tonka Hemingway. How do you replace a big-time 350-pound nose tackle that can move that fast? How do you replace what Demetrius Knight did for your second level of your defense? How do you replace what Adebo Williams could offer for you? How do you replace a Nicky Manori on the back end that was not only a physically imposing, heat-seeking missile type hitter, but he also could create the turnovers? How do you replace what you lose at the cornerback position? Because you brought in a lot of transfers, but there's also the factor of, you relied so heavily on the portal. You also are relying so heavily that these players are connecting to your culture by the time that the most important part of your season rolls around. And if they're not there, you're going to drop a game whether you like it or not because of it's just not the right timing. And that's where I have an issue with, because I still think the offense is going to be fine. Sellers, I think, will improve as a passer. I do think that they have wide receivers that are good. Maybe they're not great, but they're good. I do think that Rasul Faison can do a lot if you actually get him on your roster for this year. But one of the things that we talked about
was if they didn't. They wouldn't have brought him on if they didn't think.
But one of the things that we talk about is last season, the reason why it was so easy to trust in South Carolina to be in every game was their defense would give their offense one more shot. Hey, we need a third down stop. All right, cool. TJ Sanders is getting a sack for a loss of 5. Ball's back in your court. Can you go and make up for that? Can you make up for the turnover that you had earlier? I don't know if South Carolina's defense has that right now. I feel really good about the pieces that are there. I feel good about some leaders that you're expecting to kind of take on that role that you're losing with Eman Wari and Knighton and what you lost in Kyle Kennard.
And I don't even think you need somebody. Obviously, they're not going to replace Kyle Kennard with another SEC Defensive Player of the Year.
No, but if you
did, even if he can be decent, I think people forget Dylan Stewart got a lot of one-on-ones, where this year that ain't going to be the case until someone on the other side proves that. I think a lot of people aren't really discussing that just because – again, you get a lot of one-on-ones. You don't have a tight end or running back over there to help you chip.
Yeah. But again, I think the defense was a big reason why every single game, regardless of what the score was, you felt confident. Because again, that Oklahoma matchup, Sellers didn't set the tone in that game. The defense did. They picked off Michael Hawkins and they put them up 28-0. I was like, it was 28-0 after the first quarter, and like the offense barely took the field. So it's like, you just knew that your defense was going to bail you out of trouble if you didn't have the best day at the bank offensively. You don't have that right now. And you are going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And you are going to Oxford, Mississippi. And you are going to Como, Missouri. And you are having to play against Texas A&M at Kyle Field. Your schedule, it may end up being relinquishing in your favor in terms of, hey, we'll prove that we are one of the best teams because of the gauntlet that we have to go through. But you also have to go to these locations, hostile locations. And some of these games are going to be at 7 o'clock at night where your defense may end up being the reason why you walk away with the dub. And I'm not saying that I'm not high on South Carolina. I have them as my number 10 team going into this year. But there is a lot of reasons to believe that right now you won't replace what you brought in terms of leadership. You won't replace the type of player that had been indoctrinated into this culture and have been building up to this moment, whether it be from the transfer portal or whether it be just in terms of overall production to where you're right back to square one. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. South Carolina and Tennessee, very similar to me outside of just the quarterback spots. That's why I would give South Carolina the edge going into the season.
LSU at this point, it truly, in my opinion, feels like they have to make the college football playoff simply because of how much they spent. And I know that feels like egregious expectations because of nobody should have to feel like they guarantee make the college football playoff. But I've been on record saying multiple times, Ole Miss was a failure last season. You invested so much to put all your eggs in the Jackson Dart basket to go on a postseason run. And you went 10-3 and you lost to Kentucky in week 5. LSU has the quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier. They have weapons. They have, I think, a decent offensive line. They're going to have a second-year offensive coordinator. They're also going to have a better defense underneath Blake Baker. They went out and they spent money. Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton. They brought in Tamarcus Cooley. They feel good about the linebacker situation. They'll get back a healthy Weeks at some point. They'll get back Harold Perkins at some point. They feel better about where they are in the secondary. And so it's like, I feel like that they have to make the college football playoff in 2025. But in your opinion, how do they make the college football playoff in 2025?
Yeah, I think it's taking that next step defensively in year 2 under Blake Baker. I mean, they've done enough stuff. They've gotten rid of Sage Ryan, who'd been on the roster, just could never fit into any kind of spot in that secondary, whether it's safety or the nickel spot. I've heard the Mansour Delane kid, the transfer from Virginia Tech's been really good from somebody high up in LSU's building. They loved him a lot. I think Jack Pyron, kind of a PBR or DPR, I should say, designated pass rusher. See if Patrick Payton can do something. You mentioned him too, Bear. Yeah, it'd be the defense because I believe the offense, the most important spot going into the year, I think we'd all agree he's the most accomplished quarterback, Nussmeier, in the league right now. We'd still like to see him take that next step, but I don't think he really has to take that next step for them just to get to the playoffs. For them to win it all, yeah, I think he would have to take that next step. But just to get to the playoffs, I think they could be better around him a little bit, surround him a little bit, get some more winnable plus players through the portal like they have, or some think they have, but they've tried to address it. I think that could get in the playoffs. National championship's another step, but why they could, or if you told me why they did, Bear, I think it would certainly be an improvement on the defensive side of the ball in year 2 for Blake Baker.
Can they run the football? That's to me, that's what it all comes down to. Can you run the football?
So you think if they're just as bad defensively and they run a little better, though?
I don't. I think that if you had enough defensively last year and you were able to at least put up a decent rushing attack, you would have been, I think, 10-2 or at least 9-3. I truly do. Because of, the injuries did eventually hurt you. And you were still indoctrinating your culture. But I think that they can still have a slightly improved defense. If you can stop the run, that's a big time deal because it eliminates one major element of a factor that hurt you last year. But this was an LSU team that ranked 89th and averaged less than 83 yards per game on the ground. And they had multiple running backs. And how many times do you watch as Caden Durham had several breakaway runs? He looked really, really good in the game against Oklahoma. He looked really, really good in the game against Baylor. He looked really good in the game against against Florida. They lost against Florida. They barely were able to do anything against Ole Miss's run defense, and they found a way to win that game in double overtime because of the passing attack. Like, it bothers me when people talk about Garrett Nussmeier because I do think that there is a ceiling with him. I don't know if that means from an NFL perspective or a college perspective, but I'm willing to go ahead and drink the Kool-Aid and say he's QB1 in the SEC for 2025. I have no issue with that. I also think that when you look at what Brian Kelly was able to address this offseason in terms of personnel, they got a speed threat at wide receiver, Barian Brown. They got a vertical threat at wide receiver, Chris Hilton. They have a slot receiver in Aaron Anderson. They have a big-time body receiver in Nick Anderson. They have weapons at tight end. They have, I think, an offensive line that will be good, but not great like it was last year. And I think that the defense is adding in pieces, like you already said. Jack Pyburn, he may end up being the Trey Moore of LSU this year. Pass rushing specialist, comes in on third down and second down, gets to the quarterback. Patrick Payton, I think, is a better fit for this defensive front. I like what they have at the linebacker spot. You already mentioned Minor. What about Tamarcus Cooley at safety? He may end up having one of the big breakout seasons. They landed, what's his name, from Houston not too long ago, Collie. So It's like all the things are there to where defensively they should be improved. I'm not saying elite. I'm not saying great. I'm saying improved. But if you can't run the football and you are simply just a team that is going to have to rely so heavily on Garrett Nussmeier 45 times a game, uncorking it for 375, you're not going to the playoff. So in my opinion, if you want to be able to go to the playoff and actually be a threat in the playoff, you have to run the football and you have to be able to consistently move the chains on the ground. If they do that, they may win the SEC. I am very high on what LSU can be this year, but you got to run the football. You have to run the football.
Yeah, my reason why they would not. Yeah, that's my concern. I think a lot of people were overlooking the spot you're just talking about, Barry. I think it's the offensive line spot. Again, I think some of the running issues they had last year is they wouldn't commit to it from a play calling standpoint more than they didn't have the dudes up front to do it. This year it could be, I don't know if you have the dude to be a little bit of a stretch, but this could be a unit that is pretty average, or at least on the very interior of this group. That's the line. That's the group I'm really watching. I'm like you, Bear. I think inevitably they're going to be better on defense. I think they are. That's why I think if you told me they made the college football playoff, that's why I'm like, well, the defense is going to be improved. I kind of expect that. The offensive line, I'm still very, very, very hesitant about. I mean, DJ Chester is really the only name, and mix in a little bit of Paul Mubinga, and that's it of some guys that have played. Cohen Eccles, Weston Davis, Tyree Adams, all those guys still have some stuff to prove. Again, Nussmeier wasn't touched a lot last year. It's because he had a really good offensive line in front of him. The best pass pro blocking offensive line in the entire country with Emory Jones and Will Campbell, as we all know. That could change a little bit, especially on the interior, where, again, like I always say, you talk to any college quarterbacks, any professional quarterbacks that are playing in the NFL, they would much rather face an edge rusher than a guy on the interior that can be disruptive and push your offensive lineman to their feet. That makes them uncomfortable. You can always go adjust scheme, step up into the pocket from an edge rusher. LSU's interior offensive line would be my concern. Why I don't think they would make the playoffs if it got bad.
I'm the same. We don't have to spend that much more time on this because I'm the same. Because it also factors in when it comes to running the football. If you don't have a good interior offensive line to open up holes, then you're going to have a trouble with anybody. It could be Caden Durham. It could be Aaron Anderson. You could be having Garrett Nussmeier on a design run. And I think we got to give a little bit more credit to Garrett Nussmeier's athleticism. He may end up being one of the more sneaky dudes that is not afraid to watch the field, survey, looking for open receivers, tuck and run, and then he's 25 yards down the field. We've seen him before move. So I think we got to give a lot of credit there.
Yeah, I like his ability to play within the pocket. I'll say that.
I also like his improvisation.
Extending plays, but I'm like give him credit for that last year.
I think the other thing is that he is relentlessly unafraid, and the way he plays is ice in his veins. I mean, like literally never was phased on a 4th and 5. Gotta have it against Ole Miss. Touchdown pass to Aaron Anderson. Like he plays a certain brand of football that I want my quarterback. But part of the reason why he was so unfazed last year is because if he was sacked 16 times, that offensive line is not the same. And so we talk about regression all the time in this sport. And sometimes it's a player and other times it's a personnel. For my opinion right now, it would be LSU's personnel on the interior offensive line. They don't have the right guys blocking up front to give you that separation when it comes to running the football, putting yourself in a prime position to be able to play with the play action pass, with the RPO. And now you're forced to have to play an up-tempo style of offense where you don't have the weapons that are going to be able to create that separation.
Mayor, who do you like in that week one, man? I mean, that's the biggest mismatch by far in that game, especially when you factor in the games on the road for LSU's offensive line. That for TJ Parker, Peter Woods, DeMonte Capehart. Geez, first game on the road.
If you told me I get LSU's wide receiver core with Garrett Nussmeier, I still like LSU. But I don't like the fact that they have to go up against, in my opinion, probably a top 5 defense in college football, and they're doing it in their backyard. Like that. Week one. That's a big ass. And by the way, I know we got a lot of South Carolina people that watch this channel, but if you haven't already, make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe. That way we continue to know what you want to talk about. But there is a certain content creator, you know who it is, who recently ranked Clemson #1. Guys, in this year, it's not that far-fetched of a take. Clemson's returning production offensively and defensively with their schedule in the ACC. If they can set the tone against LSU week 1, there's a legit factor that says that they might be the most complete team in college football. Now, do I believe that? No, I don't. But do I also see what?
Go ahead, Bear. Sorry. No, I was going to say Clemson. I just think the schedule's so beneficial. It's like, but you're right. I think they could be living on that LSU win for a while.
But do I think that they have the personnel when it comes to returning quarterback, returning wide receivers, a legit wide receiver room, decent rushing attack?
They're by far, they're by far the biggest Power 4 favorite in the conference.
in my opinion, the way that we used to talk about Alabama and Georgia being the clear-cut favorites in the SEC.
How we used to talk about Clemson for
It,
the last
fair.
3 or 4 years.
But the way that I felt like Alabama was just a living juggernaut that would just completely suck the soul out of you, that's how I feel about Clemson in the ACC. Like, I have them as number 5, and I still feel like I undersold them in my rankings this year. And that's me being saying, like, I don't think that they probably belong at number 2 or number 1, but 4 is not that far-fetched. Like, I have Penn State at number 1. Most years, I think that Penn State probably doesn't belong in that conversation. I don't. I think it's a joke that I have to go that far. But you start running out of excuses on why they don't belong there. Clemson has an opportunity to beat LSU. And it's not because of, oh, it's Brian Kelly is an overrated coach, or, oh, LSU just doesn't win week 1. No, it's because Clemson is a good enough team. Like, a lot of people just have to accept the fact that they may have an ACC patch, but they are a good enough team to beat LSU. They are. Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I think they're favored, I think, by what, 2.5, 3 right now.
I think 2.5 right now. All right. Like, review, hit subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. When we come back on next Monday, we'll do 3 more teams. We'll figure out which 3 that we're going to do. But we are going to break down Georgia's schedule for 2025. So, Dave, as we always do, let's go ahead and talk about it. Marshall week 1, Austin Peay week 2. Then you got to travel up to Knoxville, which a game that I think you and I both said when Nico was there maybe could have been in favor of the Vols just because of the veteranship and also because of it being in your backyard. Josh Heupel going into year 5. Alabama week 4. Then you play against Kentucky. You go on the road to Jordan-Hare to play against Auburn, Ole Miss, Florida, Mississippi State, then Texas late. I think it's the 19th. Is that right, Dave? The 20th?
Yeah.
Charlotte and then Georgia Tech.
I'm sorry, the 15th. Yeah.
15th. Yeah, 15th. Most winnable conference game. I think that it's fair that we could say it's 1 or 2.
Yeah, just because it's at home, I'll go Kentucky.
I'll go Mississippi State because of
Yeah, I mean, you can argue either one of them.
Like, okay. The thing is that what seems more likely? Mississippi State ends up playing its best game the way that Kentucky did last year and loses, or that Kentucky just has given up by the time they walk into Athens.
Dude, State may be a little better in Kentucky this year, I think.
There's a part of me that wants to put Mississippi State ahead of Kentucky right now. There's a slight part of me because I believe enough that the offense is going to be better on the ground, having Fluff Bothwell, especially what you have back with Davin Booth. And so now that's a 1-2 combination at running back, year 2 in Jeff Levy's system. There's a part of me that wants to say they're going to finish 4-8. They're going to finish 5-7. They're not going to be great, but they're going to look decent. Like, I can picture.
They'll be better on defense. Offensive line is still just a major question mark. You're not up to SEC standards. But, no, I mean, I'm with you. They should. Yeah, I mean, again, not a challenge for Joe. I think we're splitting hairs here at Kentucky, Mississippi State. You can make a case for either one.
Is it weird also that they only have 3 road games in conference this year?
Yeah, because Florida's a neutral site.
Florida's a neutral site game.
It's a road game, I guess, technically this year. They'll be in the white jerseys.
I'll say they'll be wearing the white, but it's a neutral site. The must-see matchup. Which one is it for you?
Must-see matchup. To me, it's got to be Bama making that trip to Sanford. I mean, at some point, man. I mean, you've beaten Alabama, twice since 2007. You got to win that. I think if you're Georgia, if not now, win a little bit for this perspective. I mean, it's at home, new starting quarterback for Alabama. This is kind of the monkey you can't get off your back, whether it was a Nick Saban and Alabama thing. I think it's just kind of at times Alabama's kind of had your number is what it is in sports. That happens. I think that's it. I think that's the one Georgia fans are like, dude, if these guys come into our house again, not again, if they just come into I should say again, but if they come in this year and beat us, that's the one you got to have circled, right? If you're a Georgia fan or if you're Kirby Smart.
I go Texas. And I just go Texas because of how many people are so – and it's not fair to say this way, so let me phrase this properly. Texas has the money, the resources, the boosters, and the overall facility to be the biggest threat in the SEC for the next decade plus. They do. They absolutely do. And I know that respect is earned and that Georgia has beaten Texas twice already, once in the SEC championship. I get that. I do. But Texas also has the number 1 recruiting class. Texas, what they lost, they were able to feel pretty confident in by replenishing via the portal. Just like you replenish in the portal. You got rid of all your wide receivers. You bring in Zachariah Branch. You bring in Noah Thomas. Okay, Gunnar Stockton, you now have better weaponry to take that next step forward in Mike Bobo's system. We feel decent about our offensive line. Hey, Nate Frazier, you got to hold on to the football because if you don't, Josh McCray is going to run behind you. Texas feels the same way. Hey, we got a tight end to go work with Arch Manning and Jack Endries. Hey, we brought in a wide receiver that was really, really promising in the ACC with Emmett Mosley. We added in literally as many defensive tackles as possible. So we're showing you that just because of we're Texas and we were in the Big 12, we're not going to sit by and let you think that your brand is bigger than our brand. Like, I grew up in this state, and I can tell you right now, we've had this conversation multiple times. Who is more profitable as a program? Texas A&M, that we talk about all that oil money, or Texas? I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Texas has more money than Texas A&M in a lot of different areas, and they're not afraid to spend it. They are not afraid when they get that belief in to go ahead and invest as much as possible. So this is a moment where if you are Georgia, you're still claiming we are the standard of the SEC, and we're going to be the standard. And you may end up winning multiple 10-win seasons and going to the playoff, but we'll be right there with you, smiling and shaking and saying hello and hoping that, hey, congratulations, best of luck to you and what you got going for you moving forward. But when we meet you in the semis, we're kicking your ass. It's just Alabama right now, I understand. If not now, when, Kirby? Is it a Bama thing or is it a Nick Saban thing? Really, what is it? We'll find out more this year. But I just feel like Texas, again, there will be so many people, and the narratives are going to be created if Texas wins this game. I mean, you can hear it. Down goes Georgia. Texas becomes the face of the SEC. And that's not fair. But you want to make sure that it doesn't answer that way? Beat them in your backyard like you beat them in theirs.
Yeah. I mean, you make a case for that one, too. I mean, Texas never goes there either.
No. 3 must-win games.
I mean, outside the obvious ones, but let's go. Yeah. For me, I'm going to go Alabama this year's one. I think Florida this year, and then I'll go Texas at home. Again, I don't think you're going to lose to Tennessee, but I think if there was a year you could afford to, it's probably very early in the year this year. With you're breaking in a lot of newcomers on defense, which are really talented. Just they're newcomers, their first road game in the SEC. Losing Nico makes me feel more confident in that, but I don't think that was Kirby's lost to Tennessee one time his first year in the Hail Mary pass to Josh Dobbs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's Georgia fans would be like, what the hell if we lost that game? I think this year, yeah, because Florida's kind of got a lot of hype coming in. I think a lot of people are high on Florida going into the year. Maybe get a little bit more juice back in that game. Kind of set the tone with them, naturally Alabama, and then just some of the points you made as well. I think Texas. I think those 3, Alabama, Florida, and Texas.
I want to be different than you. So Alabama and Texas are easy ones because if those are 2 teams that can go to the college football playoff alongside you. So that's fair. In your opinion, because I think that Florida is a must-win game, but it's also like if you were to lose that game, Florida could find a way to shoot itself in the foot and it doesn't come back to bite you in the ass. You can lose Tennessee and it doesn't come back to bite you in the ass. Is Ole Miss or Georgia Tech a more must-win game? And I understand for a conference perspective, it's easily Ole Miss. But that 8 overtime game and the way that I think Georgia Tech is built this year, there's enough for me to say I'm excited about what we're getting in Brent Key.
Yeah, I'd probably say Ole Miss still just because of the game.
I mean, again, because if you were to go 10-2 and one game is in non-conference, you can still go to Atlanta because you only have 1 loss. So it's like, yeah, I get it. A part of me also thinks that Ole Miss coming in here, they're going to have confidence because they've already beaten Georgia. But Georgia just wants to shut up Lane Kiffin. Because, I mean, that's going to be the motivation that you have behind it.
I hate that Tech games at Mercedes now.
I know. It's dumb. It's so dumb. It's stupid. I think that also kind of takes away from it, too. Like, Ole Miss, again, you got to see, like, for a cup of coffee, what Austin Simmons was, and he looked really good. Like, he looked confident. He looked very well connected with Caden Lee, who's going to be back last year. So it's like, I don't see them losing that game, but I also think that there's that scenario where Ole Miss came in, what was it, 2022?
Yeah.
Or 2023? Yeah, 23.
Yeah.
And it was like 7-0. And then Georgia said, okay, time to go to work. And they put belt to ass. It was like 50-something to 17. Yeah, 52-17. Thank you, Motivated, Dedicated. Yeah, belt to ass. As soon as they got that rhythm, like pedal to the metal, nonstop. I think that could be the case. I think it could be a close game. But either way, I think that Kirby wants to send a message to Lane. Like, you got me one time. Know your place in the pecking order. I think that's probably why.
I'll be honest with you. After working at Georgia for 2 years, granted, they beat us 1 year, but I don't think Georgia fans really give a crap about the old clean, old-fashioned hate. Now, I say all that until they beat you, and then you care. But, like, yeah, I don't know. I think it means more a little bit to Georgia Tech than it does Georgia, right? The damn nerds.
I think, okay, well, here's the thing. If Georgia Tech somehow beats Clemson and then they beat Georgia, if that were just to happen, the rest of their schedule is so manageable, they could be 11-1 and almost a shoo-in for the college football playoff. Like, their schedule is extremely manageable. And I like their offensive line, and I like what they have at quarterback with Haynes King back for another year. Both the Florida International wide receivers are really good. Their defense, I know they lost Tyler Santucci, but I think that Blake Gideon is going to be fine with the personnel that he has. How is he going to be as a play caller? He's going to be really well tested. So that game means way more, I think, to Georgia Tech than it does to Georgia. Because of, again, that game on the record where 10-2 guarantees your spot in the college football playoff if you're in the SEC. It doesn't in the ACC. So I think that's another factor that you got to throw into it. Ceiling and floor. What's the ceiling of this team?
In 12-0, Nashville. I think most people would agree with that. Floor, I would say if things don't pan out, 9-3. That's why I think it's one of their lowest floors from a record. I don't think a talent perspective, but I think lowest floor from a schedule perspective because they're replacing so much. I'm going to go ceiling 12-0, floor 9-3. If Nico was there, I just can't lean the Tennessee game completely. But maybe Auburn, Hugh Freeze get it done. Not saying it is, but I'm just saying it's going to be a tough game. I don't know, maybe Texas gets you. Yeah, I think you throw some injuries. 9-3 floor.
9-3 is the floor. I completely agree with you. I think the ceiling is 11-1. And the reason I say that is not
undefeated.
I just don't see any team in the SEC going undefeated. I just don't.
Well, no, I'm saying, but like that's what you think. I would agree with you. I don't think they do go undefeated, but like their ceiling, like when they're playing their absolute best.
I still think that they're going to drop a game. I don't know why. Like it's just a part of my brain that says when you look at the quality of competition, Alabama could be at its peak right there alongside you in 11-1. But then they lose that one game to Georgia, who Georgia then loses that one game to Texas, who Texas then loses that one game to Florida. That's where my brain is. I just don't see a scenario where any team is good enough to – let me phrase that. There are too many teams that are so well put together that nobody is going to go undefeated in the SEC. And you may see that in the Big Ten, but there's also a clear separation. Like, we had Trey on Thursday, and Trey even said, you look at the SEC last year, there was a separation on who was in the bottom. But then there was like that no mid-level. There was a lot of teams that were competitive, and then you couldn't kind of get through that separate. That's how I feel about the SEC right now, where, yeah, you could easily beat Alabama by 20. But then somehow Ole Miss is good enough when it comes to its play design to where it's going to be a battle. Or Florida, it's going to be a battle. Or Texas, it's going to be a battle. And I still have questions when it comes to the quarterback position. I have questions when it comes to the run game. I have questions when it comes to the run defense. Like I thought,
it's more holes than they've had since probably 2016.
Both of those areas for Georgia were weak last season. And I do like what they have at wide receiver. I've been on the record saying I think Zachariah Branch is going to be such a good fit for what they want to run. I think Noah Thomas is going to be a mismatched nightmare. And I'm not really that worried about Gunnar Stockton. Like, I don't think Gunnar Stockton's a top 5 passer in the SEC, but I do think that he is a good enough quarterback to fit what you need to run to work.
I'm leaning a little pug, but I'm leaning a little pug, maybe the guy by this season's in.
But if it is, I mean, you should feel good about that too, in my opinion. What I wonder about is, do you feel good about the run game? Do you feel good about the run defense? Because I think that the part of the reason they brought in Ella Mendoza was they wanted to get better at the run defense, especially on first and second down.
Well, see, I think he's a DPR guy. I don't think he can hold up at the point of attack consistently. That would be my concern. If you got to play him full time out there, I think a lot of teams will run at him.
I think he's actually, watching his film, I liked him better as a run defender than I did as a pass rusher. Just the way that he attacked. Now,
I think at 220, you could just hang out in the SEC. Just as it's just setting the edge. Again, the offensive lines are as worse as they've been. You said about all sports, but 220 is pretty light to be hanging out there.
I don't disagree. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a full-time starter. Let's go with that. I don't. But I do think that he is going to be a big situational playmaker, especially for the run defense on early downs and then third down if he's pass rushing. Like,
I'm looking at 235. It's bigger than I thought. But again, well, we can agree. We'll find out this season. But no, you're right, Bear. I mean, I just think if Georgia's talent-wise, if they're playing their best, they could certainly win every game. Will they? No. I think me and you were talking a little two different things. I don't think they're going undefeated. I agree with you. I think they could. Like, their best on any given day is better than everybody else on the schedule except Texas or Alabama. But let's just say Texas or Alabama didn't play up to their ceiling that day. Georgia could definitely win both those games. They're both at home.
See, we did Alabama's schedule, and I said that Alabama.
You said Alabama was 11-1. I thought they were 12-0 too.
So it's like, that's the thing, is that I can't in good breath and in good confidence say, hey, Alabama, what they just did, it's so much more better than what Georgia did. And I can't also say that with Georgia, what they've lost and in terms of where they are as a program this year, that they're that much further ahead than Bama. I can't. So if I have one at 11-1, I got both at 11-1. And I'm just going to be real. For Texas, it's going to be 11-1 too. Because you want to know why? How much they are replacing. Like, when you replace that much talent, it is going to hurt
you. There you go, 11-1.
I may go 10-2. I may go.
Honestly, to answer my own question, I'd probably go 11-1 LSU.
Well, is that LSU's next, isn't it? Aren't they? No, Kentucky's next.
Kentucky, yeah. Okay.
I don't know. It's going to be 10-2 and 11-1. I got to look at their schedule. But if you want to go ahead and make that bet, or really any bet, just go ahead and visit FanDuel. FanDuel right now is offering $250 in bonus bets when you use your first $5 bet. The app is safe, secure, super easy to use. If you don't already have an account, FanDuel is offering great promotions every single day to users, like profit boost tokens, new features like Parlay Hub, build your own same game parlay, or choose from one of the popular SGPs already made for you in the Parlay Hub. Simply go on over to FanDuel.com/SECU. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Get in the action with others that you won't want to miss. Disclaimer: must be 21 and present in select states or 18 and present in DC. First online real wager money only. $5 first deposit is required. Bonus issued with non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering sports wagering in Kansas under the agreement of the Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY in New York. All right. That was fun. That was a decent show. Did we miss anything?
No, I'm good, Barry. That was a fun show.
Did we miss anything? I'm not. Honestly, at this point, I've been going all day. I've been literally on air, whether it be here or at my other job for the last 6 hours. So everything kind of flows together at some point. You're just like, all right, did I miss anything? Nope. Dave's the final voice reason. So there we go. Mailbag episode on Thursday. Mailbag episodes on Thursday. So get your questions in.
Get them in. Don't be shy.
Whether it be at Dave Shumate SEC, at Mr. Cole Thompson, at SEC Unfiltered. Comment, review, like, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels. Make sure that you tell your friends, family, mortal enemies, best of bros about this channel because we are the #1 source for all things college football in the SEC. And we're going to be the #1 source all throughout the rest of the season. Make sure that also you download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. Have a good start to your week. Have a good rest of your week if we don't see you until Thursday. And remember, you only live life once, so live it to the damn fullest. Peace.